Hello. Today I'll be going over the Guardian tree in Dragonflight. So the first thing I'll be going over is the talents I haven't chosen and why I haven't chosen them. Personally, I don't think you need two charges of survival instincts unless you really like pressing that button, but I think you should be okay without it. Now, I don't know anything about Dragonflight to begin with, not a lot of people do at this current time. So maybe things will change, but as of right now, this is the current path I would choose. You're okay with only having one charge of survival instincts. Extending the duration of bark skin and iron fur by 1 second, kind of irrelevant. You don't need to worry about that. Infected wounds, mangle them all causes movement speed slow by 50%. Maybe only PvP that's worth. I don't really see that having a use at all. If it said thrash slowed, maybe, but I don't think it would be valuable. Now, this entire right side has synergy, including this Ursox Endurance, to utilize Iron Fur and just completely mitigate damage a lot better. That is what this entire right side is for. So if you like the idea of stacking Iron Fur, this side could be really good for you. But as of right now, personally, I do not think this side is going to be good. Your Gory Fur, Mingle has a 15% chance to reduce the rage cost of your next Iron Fur by 25%. you know, just simple reduces the cost of it. Arnfer has a 10% chance to grant two applications. I think that one's pretty good. It The one after that is Arnfer reduces increased armor by an additional 4% and Barskin reduces damage by additional 5%. Again, extra defensives, kind of irrelevant. If you're doing higher end content, these might be useful, but on a base scale, I don't think there's any point to them. Same with this one. Mangle increases the duration of your next Iron Fur by 2 seconds, or healing you next Frenzy Regen by 20%. Kind of whatever. And then especially the next one, After the Wildlife, is kind of really, really bad. Spend 200 rage and you heal somebody for 3% of your maximum health. That's definitely like a whatever thing. Um, kind of just pointless. Like lowering the cooldown of Barskin and Survival Instincts, more defenses if you really need it. I don't think you'll need it. Um, you know, Niche content, maybe you do for some hard stuff. Thrash also generates 2 rage each time it deals damage. I loved this one, but it just sucks where it is in the tree. If this was on this side, be a lot better, but it's all the way over here, which is weird, because the Mangle one makes sense. Mangle generates 5 more rage and deals 25% more damage. This one's actually really good for single target. So you can switch some things up depending. I'll go over that in the future or in a little bit. But Mangle dealing more damage definitely would help with your single target, and Thrash generating 2 rage would also help with Iron for stacks. Since you don't get Incarn with Barkskin anymore, you're only going to be thrashing that much in Incarn, so it's kind of pointless to generate more rage. But hypothetically, I could also be wrong here. Maybe this is still like the golden just to get Iron Fur. I have to play it out and play test it to really see. And then this one, I like the idea of this. It just depends on how much damage it actually does. And for the reason of that is it prevents 25% all damage you take in reflecting nature damage, but and you're also immune to loss control effects. But you don't know as of right now how much damage that's going to do and how much of an impact that's going to have. That might be a really nice talent to run in the future, but as of right now, no, I don't think it would be worth running. And in this one, it just reduces the damage done by 35%. Again, extra defensive, and this is increases your movement speed. This is one out of all of them is kind of pointless. I love movement speed, but I'd sacrifice that for damage any day of the weaker defensives. So those ones that I've mentioned before are very niche. You could find options when Dragonflight actually comes out to utilize those talents, but as of right now, I think it's okay to just leave them out into the question and try this build. Now, the reason why I went this path is, these three don't really have that much of an impact. This one just buffs this one, and Circle of Life, damage is going to happen in general. So that one's kind of pointless. It's just an extra bonus for when you thrash and do damage. Um, Especially Moonfire, I'll get to that in a second. Book Invoke. I do like having an extra button to press that could either heal me or deal damage. I still like that whole idea. I don't like that it's tied to Incarn instead of Berserk. You know, it feels weird that I have to choose one or the other because Incarn on a flat scale just increases your health and causes Mangle to hit 3 targets. Now, I don't know how much damage Mangle is going to be doing to 3 targets, but if Mangle does a lot to 3 targets over, let Thrash, then that could be the play over Convoke. But if not, I think Convoke's just a generic ability, nice healing, nice damage, especially casting more exceptional spells, they like to call it. I think that whole playstyle is good. Um, Now let's go over to the single target. Tooth and Claw auto attacks have a 20% chance to empower your next Maul, stack up to 2 times. Empowered Maul deals 40% increased damage and reduces the target's damage. Generic, making your Maul do some nice damage. I think that one is really nice. This one too Mangle increases the damage of your next Maul. Pretty generic, single target stuff. Maul has an additional 15 to 30% chance to critically strike. More chance that your Maul crits. And this one is very, very important from both sides. Is when you go Berserk, you get 15% haste. That is so big. And I can't stress that enough how important that is to have when tanking. So you can just spam Thrash. That's why I love this one. Now going into generic stuff. Brambles over Bristling Fur. I've thought about Bristling Fur. I just don't like pressing an extra button to generate more rage. I feel like that's kind of finicky. This one increases your healing with regrowth and frenzied regen. Gore, not too crazy, but you needed to spend a point to get into Brambles, so you have to get this. Berserk. This one's a big one, reducing the cooldown of Thrash. This is the whole Thrash mindset. That is what this build is. It's the whole let me Thrash AoE in dungeon. Thrash could trigger an additional time. When you deal damage with Thrash, you take reduced damage. This is the probably best for damage reduction, just flat. Every time I used to run dungeons and run this, it was sad to not go, or it's sad because I had to switch over to Barkskin cooldown because Earth Warden was so impactful. The only reason why this was relevant was because Incarn was on Barkskin, but now that's not here anymore, and you can go Earth Warden, you'll reduce a lot of melees taken with Earth Warden. Reduces the cooldown of Frenzied Regen. You'll constantly have your Frenzied Regen to heal you when you're in Incarn, so you'll be unkillable, as always. Just normal stuff. Now what I like is Ursox is still here. Maul and Thrash grant you a shield. Beautiful. Now you're just immuning all the damage you deal when you're in Incarn and thrashing around. Frenzied Regen cooldown is reduced by 10%. You get to heal more often. And increases the damage and radius of Thrash. Your damage, self-explanatory. But that over this one, this has like a slowly stacking thing. This is a little bit of a damage mitigation. But I think getting the shield and thrashing, having Thrash deal more damage and getting the shield from that is probably more impactful than running Rend and Tear. And then Dream of Cenarius, it causes your next regrowth to be instant free. I don't find a lot of value in that because it's just like irrelevant. Now, Moonfire. This one could be really good or really bad. I know Moonfire has been a decent portion of damage, and allowing bear form tanks to specialize in it actually increases the damage of our AoE a lot. What I would have liked instead of this is getting Barkskin granting Incarn. If Barkskin granted Incarn, I probably would not go this tree, but since here, this will be fun to test out. But like, if this is really a bad tree, then you can go spec into this, you can spec into this for a little bit more defense, a couple of other options. But now, let's take a look into it. I think you would need to take all of them if you're going to go this route. And for the reason of what the last one is, let's go. Moonfire reduces damage dealt to you. Whatever. But then it starts to get crazy. Your damage has a 5% chance to trigger an automatic Moonfire on the target. When this occurs, the next Moonfire generates 8 rage and deals 3% increased direct damage. Meaning it's going to do a lot more damage and give you some rage, which will help with surviving. like, okay, like 300% damage, but then let's keep going a little bit further. Moonfire deals 20% increased damage and also hits another nearby enemy. You're giving twin moons to a tank. That is pretty phenomenal, meaning you're going to put damage reduction on all the enemies you're fighting. Plus, the thing is going to proc, and so you're going to want to actually press Moonfire. So, this playstyle gives you something to do when you don't have Incarn and you don't have Thrash, you know what I mean? You're just pressing Moonfire on targets. Let's go a little bit further. While in bear form, you deal 20% increased arcane damage, meaning Moonfire is going to keep doing more damage. And then to top it all off, you deal 30% increased arcane damage and are healed for the amount of arcane damage you do. So this whole tree is built to do crazy Moonfire damage, and not only that, at the end, it will heal you. So this whole build is actually pretty insane. I really, really like what they did here, and I really think that generally speaking, this could be the best setup. A couple of times maybe you don't want to take these three and you can go over here. I think diving into Ironfur and just mitigating damage doesn't sound fun to me. I'd rather just heal more. Like, this is a whole healing build and damage. At the cost of, like, let's say these are kind of like whatever, then you can go into Mangle dealing more single target damage if Convoke sucks. But I think this is the best build. This build is great for AoE and dungeons, just a very generic build. Sometimes you can go into more defensive stuff like Survival Instincts and Pulverize. If you're in a single target fight, you don't really need Ursoc's Fury. You can kind of get out of this tree and go more into this tree. Like, for example, like, let's say you're in a single target, then maybe going something like that would be better, you know what I mean? And then, like, putting one more spec there. For single target, that might be what you're looking at. For AoE, it's probably the other one. But that's generally roughly what I think is best. Oopsies, wrong one, not that one, then this one, and this. That's the best case. It'll be fun to test stuff out. This might end up being OP, so we have to see how much damage this is actually going to do, because maybe you can change stuff around. Like, I guarantee, like, if, like, Convoke sucks, right, then you can easily get rid of all those talents, come over here and get that. You can still get that if you want things to be done, damage over time effects to be faster, get that. Just random stuff. You can just tweak it just a little bit. I think what it comes down to is personal preference. It'll be fun to play around with that. But if you wanted to pause the video on what I did before, this is the build. I think this is hands down what you should try first. Now let's look into the Druid talent tree. I am a little disappointed with how this works for the fact that I love Typhoon because I like knocking enemies backwards. I don't like where it is on the tree. It's pretty far into the tree, and that makes me generally upset because I have to go through some stuff to get to it. I mean, granted, this is a nice buff, but do I really need it? Probably not. Healing and magic damage dealt increased. You want this to increase your Moonfire damage and healing, so which is crazy. So I guess we'll just dive right into everything. Or before I go in, there's two different builds. As you can see here, there's another build where I take these two talents over these two. And the reason for it, if you're not a fan of Moonfiring and going into, not Moonfire, sorry. If you're not a fan of Typhooning and you like Ursul's Vortex or Mass Entangle more, then you can go this route. But personally, I really think, for my playstyle, because I like going into Moonkin form, doing some Moonkin damage with Convoke, and then popping back into Bear form, plus Moonfire does more damage now with this, magic damage increase, great synergy. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's get into what I picked and first, because this is more interesting. You picked Starfire. I don't know why Starfire is the first thing you pick. It doesn't make sense because I'm not just going to go raw Starfire or something. I'd be in Moonkin form. Same with Star Surge. I'm not just going to raw Star Surge something. I'm going to be in Moonkin form. So it's kind of weird that Moonkin form is not above these. Like, for example, I'm not going to Starfire as a tank. So if I had, like, Typhoon up here over Starfire, I think that would be more viable. But kind of pointless. It's kind of like a weird position for that one. So they could have switched. They could really could have switched this up a little bit. Increases the magic damage, increases the range. Then Typhoon, straight setup. I just wish Starfire. I didn't have to spec into it because as a tank, I'm not gonna be using that. But you have to get it. It's a pain. Frenzy Regen just gives it to you. Gives you Thrash. Um, Improved Bark Skin. You want that for more defense. Frenzy Regen and Bark Skin increases all healing received. That's pretty big. When you have Bark Skin on, you're gonna heal more. Swipe, another generic tank. Sorry, another tank ability. Uh, Increases your physical damage dealt and armor by 6%. Pretty crazy standard stuff for tanking. And then that also goes into your interrupt, which you need. Iron Fur increases armor for 7 seconds. Wait, I didn't even realize that. That what? Iron Fur is in the Druid Talent tree. But you technically can go in this talent tree and not even get Iron Fur at all. That's kind of stupid. I don't know if I like that pathing. I mean, I guess it's better to Iron Fur to be in here than over here, because it's kind of a weird setup. I didn't even realize that. But anyway, you're going to reduce your damage taken by 6%. Quick thoughts on a couple things. There are a couple niche items, like remove corruption. Now, this one, it depends. If there's curse and poisons, and then you have to be the dispel in the group, then obviously you have to go that and pick it. Same with the soothe. There are certain options for certain things where if you need to be the soothe, then you can get that. You can always go down right to go there. There's a whole lot of possibilities you can choose from. But if you don't need soothe, kind of sucks though, because you need to get soothe to get stampeding roar to get this, which increases your stats in your current form, which is just a nice upgrade. And this, I cannot stress enough how much I love renewal as tanking, because it's just an extra free heal that heals you for 30% of your health. It's just a basic like health stone, health pot. Just you press it, nice cooldown, nice healing, and just forget about it. Now Barkskin absorbs a small amount of damage over 8 seconds. That's also pretty cool. This is also nice because when you Barkskin, you get a small shield, which is, helps in survivability. In-cap roar over Mighty Bash. Mighty Bash is stunning things, probably better for PvP, but I love in-cap roar a lot more because you, like, fear everything around you. This one is a must because when you fall below 40% health, it'll just randomly pop a Frenzy Regen, 2 stacks. Maybe you don't need, you might be fine with just 1. And then this. The only reason why I say this one is good is because for the first 4 seconds, you switch your form that you haven't been in for 20 seconds will cost nothing. Same with nothing costing rage. I mean, it would be fun to see how many stacks of Iron Fur I can apply in 4 seconds. That would be phenomenal. Unless Iron Fur works differently than how I imagine it, but still. Actually, I don't know how that would make sense. Like spam Iron Fur. I don't know. That one has to see. But yeah, this is my general build. A lot of these are like niche. Be like, oh, I can take this if I want to do this in a dungeon. This for that. For example, it's to soothe, corruption, small things, to change. Now let's talk about everything else and why you would maybe want to get into those stuff. And like I said, you can remove any of these. If you're not a renewal fan, you can get out of that. If you're not a fan of this, you can remove this. Well honed, at least have 1 stack into this. But let's go into the left tree. If you want to weave Feral, which I think is probably the worst option because of how good your arcane damage is going to be, I do not suggest going into Feral. The only thing I like is movement speed. Just rip, maim, break, movement speed, all things Feral. But I think it'll be pointless to build. Because I think you're gonna do a lot of arcane damage. So you wouldn't be building this. Now let's go into this. This one is a nice one, but how often are you gonna jump out, jump back into bear form? It is nice, but like you're just flying into combat as a bear for the most of it because you're in cat form and then you switch back. So it's a little buggy. I do like it as a thing, but I don't often use it. Cooldown reduced by 60 seconds for Stampeding Roar. I think this is kind of irrelevant because you don't really need to reduce the cooldown for movement speed because you're cat form. That just helps other people in your party, but screw them. Heart of the Wild. This one actually might be worth going into for could be good damage bonus in dungeons. It could also be very well for single target because you go Moonkin, spam your Star Surges, convoke, you know, it'd be phenomenal damage. Probably this. Well, I think you might need this. No, I don't think you need this. You could probably remove this, or maybe one stack of this to get this. Yeah, let's just say that, you remove one stack of that, get this, for the complete spell. I think that would be worth. Maybe something like that, to get this. Because that empowerment on top of all your other empowerment for your arcane damage will make you do insane single target damage. Because Convoke is still Convoke. Moonfire's damage is still going to be there. Star Search damage is still going to be there. You're going to burst like crazy on pull as a tank. And people are going to be like, dude, what is that tank doing? Let's go into this with the mindset of there are things that need to be done. Hibernate is a niche where you need to hibernate something to put a target to sleep. Cyclone, same thing. If you need to stand there and make sure something doesn't cast or move, then you want to take Cyclone. If not, you can. I think you can leave it. Remove Corruption, same thing. If there's no curses and poisons, you don't need to run this. Rejuve, you never used as a tank. Swiftmend, you never used as a tank. So both of those kind of irrelevant. Healing done and healing taken increased by 6%. I do like this one, but I think building into it would be pointless. Wild Charge and Tiger Dash, great for movement speed, but other things are better. Wild Growth, like I said, you're not a healer. Unless the whole other option here too is this is for damage, right? But let's say like a boss like Sun King. If you need to heal that guy up top, you can be like, I'm a tank, but hey, I can spec into this healing tree and heal him. With that logic in mind, you can do that. I don't know if Dragonflight will have that type of boss mechanic, but if there is, hey, that's where you'd get the most use out of this. Sunfire, you know, that's kind of irrelevant. And here's the one thing very controversial that people have: Mass Entangle and Ursouls. I do like Ursouls, but not at the sake of what I'd have to build into. Same with Mass Entangle and Innervate. Innervate is so far down the tree, and I personally, as a tank, you don't have it to begin with, and I don't like the logic of giving somebody Innervate. So for me, I will never use it. If you have healers in your group that constantly complain that they want mana, then maybe you can cast into it if you're selfless, but I'm selfish. I'd rather boost me, not them. And so wasting talent tree to get to that for them, not part of my idea. Maybe you'll like it. That's not for me in this. All single target healing damage spells. Abilities also heal nearby friendly targets based on the amount done. 20% of heals for 40% of the damage deals. Weird. I feel like that's worded weirdly, but that's also great for healing. So if you wanted to be a healer main instead of damage, you'd go this route. But otherwise, this is the most generic thing I'd run. These two talent trees are the best, in my opinion, for generic content. I think they could probably be used for every dungeon, unless you need some slight tweaks like remove corruption, and then you can play around with this if you want to stack iron for. We'd have to see how much damage this actually does. You know, is Mangle out simming like Convoke? There's a couple of things you can tweak, but as of right now, I think these are the best talent trees for Guardian Druid. Um, I am not that good at other classes, so I don't really know how to make other trees. I think I could make the Warlock one. I think I might be able to help with the Shaman one. Um, maybe Monk, maybe Summon Mage. Uh, and I can do a balance one. I was looking to balance for my opinion on balance, is I hate it. Tree, it just feels horrible the way it's positioned with everything. If you would like to see me talk about balance, then I can talk about balance if you guys like. So comment that down below if you want to see that. But right now, this is the tree. Let me know what you think. If you have any other opinions, questions, feel free to comment and ask. And yeah, I hope you appreciated the video. I took a lot of time to look into these talents, and I hope you enjoyed watching it. And if you would like to see another video, just feel free to ask about something with the talent trees, and I'll look into it. Enough. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.